Mm. Hi, everyone. Welcome in. Thank you for joining us today. I see that we're starting to roll in some of our participants. Happy Wednesday and happy lunch break. I think I always ask this every single time if you joined, but please let us know what you're having for lunch today because I'm always thinking about food. I always need new inspiration. And I know that you're doing your best to join us during your lunch hour, and we really appreciate that. So I hope you're enjoying your lunch. And thank you for joining us today.
To be here.
Oh, hi. Thank you. Mhm. Awesome. I see some familiar faces in the chat or entering the waiting room and then being admitted. So it's nice to see some familiar faces. Hi, everybody, and some familiar names. All right. I know that people will start continuing rolling in, but it is 11:30, so I do want to get us started. So thank you everyone for being here. Go ahead and take it over, Tristan.
All right. Well, hello, and welcome to the third installment of Parent Power Hour, the executive functioning series. We're so excited to have you joining us during your lunch hour. This is definitely a come as you are event, so please feel free to go pop out, warm up your lunch, and just tune in with us today. Where we're going to be covering organization and planning. Switch slide real quick. Awesome. All right. And then just as a reminder that today's session will be recorded and put up on our FRC YouTube channel for you to watch at any time. So if you do have to hop out, no worries. This is going to be put up and you can click back at any time, especially if there's something that you want to remember or think back on. Feel free to check out our channel. It's at Laguna Beach FRC. And then also all of our past sessions are up there as well. And some of the other sessions that our FRC has provided over the years is up too. We have a really awesome library of resources, so feel free to check it out. And then just a quick introduction for some of the new faces in here. My name is Tristan Wynn. I'm the student support specialist at El Moro. My job is really just to support students and families with all things mental health. So I do counseling, I provide resources and do consultation. And I also supported the Family Resource Center once a week on Wednesdays. And then I'll go ahead and kick it off to Amelia just to do a little quick introduction.
Hi, I'm Miss Amelia. I'm the school social worker at Top of the World Elementary. Same thing, I work in the capacity of mental health and student support. So, doing individual counseling, parent consultations. I'm here to consult with staff as well. So, I help bridge that community and ensure that everyone is supported. And I also am at the Family Resource Center on Tuesdays.
All right. And super quick, I'm sure you guys have seen this. We just like to start off each presentation with a reminder of our Laguna Beach Unified Learner Profile. This is kind of like our North Star, and it guides all the work that we do with students here in the district. These are just the qualities that we really hope that students are able to exhibit when they graduate with us their senior year. And then throughout this series that we have, our executive functioning series, we're really going to be focusing on that empowered learner and that creative problem solver. Okie dokie, and a super quick glance at our agenda for today. We'll be starting off with our objectives in a moment. We do some quick definitions so that you guys just know the topics that we're covering. And then we go into the good part, the meat and potatoes, the strategies for success. We've got a lot of good ones lined up for you today that we're excited to share. Then we've got, if our time allows, I know Miss Amelia and I love to talk. We've got a lot of different exciting ideas. So hopefully there'll be some time left at the end for us to do a parent open forum. And then we'll just be closing out with some final thoughts. All right, and our learning objectives for today. I'll let you just go ahead and read through them as I kind of speak. But essentially, we'll be focusing on different ways to help you learn to support your children in building up their skills in the areas of organization, time management, and planning. And this includes prioritizing and completing responsibility. And as our kids kind of grow up, the responsibilities do grow with them. So it is important to start building up these foundational skills now while they're still young. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Miss Amelia.
Okay, so thank you again for joining us here today. Um, this is a four-part series, so we're on our third part, and we talked about this more in depth on the first one, but just as a quick review of executive functioning, because I know that's like a buzzword that us as counselors know, but just to put it into terms that everyone can understand, executive functioning contains a lot of different areas that basically just coordinate our feelings, thoughts, and actions, and this is what helps us get things done. So it's how we learn to prioritize and plan and organize, but it can also be regulating our emotions, which was our first session. Um, so moving on to the next slide, you'll see again, so many different areas. And we like to refresh this because we can't, as we join here today, we're learning for strategies for our kids, but we can't expect them to be a master of it all. But it's important to know what are their strengths. So what areas within executive functioning that they're really thriving at, and then what do we feel like they need a little bit more work on. And so specifically today, as you can see, we are working on planning, prioritization, organization, and time management. But it's just good to think it over and say, this is what I really want to work on with my child, which is maybe why you're here today, versus self-regulation and coping with their emotions they're doing awesome at. So give your kids a pat on the back where they are thriving. So if you joined us last time, we talked about memory and focus. If anyone is here from our last session, we would love to know what strategies you have implemented so far at home that have been successful. I'll just give a few moments. If you want to leave it in the chat. Again, if you joined us for memory and focus, are there any strategies that you have implemented that have been successful in your home? Or if you have any tips, even if you didn't join us last time, I would love to know. Some things that we talked about were like memory games, turning things into rhymes, making sure that your students are having enough sleep. Sleep routines are so important for memory and focus. I took away her video games until she starts listening better. Yes, we can talk about strategies all we want to, but also the structure of discipline in your home is very important in getting things done. Okay, I'll move on. But if you didn't tune into our last session, again, it's on the YouTube page. So if you're thinking now, oh, shoot, I do need some tips for memory and focus, you know where to find it. A quick definition. So we're talking today about planning and organization. Planning is about creating a step-by-step approach to complete tasks or achieve goals. So thinking about their week, just like you might have a visual schedule or something that you are planning out what your week or your month or even your year is going to be like. An organization is creating structure and order for your physical and mental environment, which I think is really important. I know sometimes we want our kids to be more organized and we might get them a lot of toy bins and be able to tuck everything away, or you want them to be organized by knowing where everything is or having their bed made every day. But I want to keep in mind that organization goes beyond just plain neatness, and it also talks about following through on actions and plans. So before we get into our tips, I just want to remind you, especially when we talk about organization and planning, I feel like even as adults, we can struggle with this skill because there's just so much going on. We're increasingly more and more busy, but we also want to be mindful that of what's developmentally appropriate. And our session is specifically for elementary school students. So I just want to remind you that organization is a developmental skill. So keep your expectations as we're talking about these strategies age appropriate. And sometimes we'll shout that out, like this would be a really good strategy for fourth and fifth graders. This is what this would look like for early elementary school. So keep that in mind as we go on today. That being said, younger students we do find need daily support and a lot of reminders, but it's setting the foundation for success later on. So it's never too early to get started. Just keep in mind they will need daily support. Independence grows gradually with scaffolding and teaching, but not pressure. We can't just put on pressure and expect them to know the skill without modeling it for them first. And forgetting is part of learning, it's not defiance. So we might think that they're purposely trying to not do these skills or not practice, but it just sounds like they just need more time to develop that skill. So keep that in mind before you implement some of these things. But moving on, let's get into the first strategy. I know that's what we're here for. So drum roll. Visuals and routines. So I want you to be thinking right now as I start talking about visuals and routines. I'd love for you to type it into the chat or even just think to yourself, what would an ideal but realistic evening routine look like for your family? So you pick up your kid from school or the Boys and Girls Club. What would a typical evening look like for you? The reason I want you to be thinking about this is that routines provide so much structure for our kids. And I think that we are increasingly busy and we also want to partake in so many different activities. And I hear that a lot, like from students. I'm involved in soccer and then I go to tutoring. And so day to day might look very, very different. But even that's the case, we know that these activities are enriching for our kids and are good for our kids, but we want to make sure that we have some sort of routine, some sort of bones of structure that really help them stay regulated, and it helps it easier to plan and organize the rest of their activities. So just keep it in mind. What would be ideal for you? Because I know that some people say, well, I would love for us to go on a mindful walk after school and then do homework for 2 hours. But sometimes, as we find out, that's not super realistic with our busy schedules. But let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. I want to teach you a little bit more about what a visual or a routine would look like. You might have seen these before, but visuals work really, really well for kids. It reduces the mental load of having to explain to them all the time, and kids are not really holding that in their memory as much as we think that they can. So visuals will be your best friend. And get in the habit of it. The more that they're seeing visuals of what their day should look like or what they can expect, the better they are at adhering to it. And again, it just provides structure for your child. So it could look like visuals as far as what they have to do each day. It could be a morning routine like this, where every morning this is what we're doing and we're planning. Or it could look like a token board, like you can get crafty with the Velcro and have a bunch of different icons. So that way you can switch out. I have tutoring on this day, but then I also have soccer on this day and karate on this day. And you just have different icons. And then this is great to review the night before, like, hey, tomorrow's Tuesday. I'm going to pull out my Tuesday routine. This is what we have going on today, etc. So the more that they're able to have those visuals, it keeps it in their mind a little bit better. And I love these too. Like it could simply be a piece of paper, like I said, or even cut it in half. And you can put it in your bag or in the car, etc. Put it on their seat so that they can see it. And it just helps them plan and prep their day a little bit better. Strategy number two, categorizing tasks. So I want us to be realistic with our students' energy and productivity. And I think that sometimes we have the best of intentions, but then we run into a wall and our kid might put in their feet and be like, I can't take any more, or I just don't know how to plan my time. So the goal here is that we want to create responsibility and accomplishment, that they were able to plan their day and organize their time, but without feeling the burnout or overwhelm. And I hear this a lot from students at the elementary school level. I also spent a little bit of time at the middle school level, but students often feel overwhelmed on how much is on their plate. And I think the barrier that I'm noticing in my counseling is that they frame everything that they have to do with 100% importance. Like it is the top thing that they have to do. But when they're taught, I'm like, okay, so what do you have to do? And of course, the first few things like studying for tests or doing their homework are very important. But then they're anticipating like having to buy a toy for their friend's birthday party later in the weekend. But still, they're placing it as the top priority and feeling overwhelmed. So categorizing is something that I do to help them know what they have to do. And like, yes, we all have a to-do list, but being able to categorize it so we're feeling less overwhelmed. And also that's how we plan. So maybe we know we have something to do, but we don't have to do it exactly this moment, but we can plan for the future of when to do it. So these are some ways that help with that and the different categorization genres, I guess. So one way that you can do this is red, yellow, green tasks. So for example, maybe the green tasks are when you're feeling like green is good for go. So I'm having the most energy, or this is where I have to do the most important work. So these would like be our top things that we have to do, like homework or chores or errands. Yellow tasks are like maybe I am in the middle of my energy. I'm starting to get tired, or I already have a lot of green zone tasks that I need to do. So I can save maybe one yellow task. And then red zone could be energy levels. So I'm really low energy, so I don't have any time for like a red zone task. But we can save this for like the least important tasks. So maybe it's packing their lunch the night before. Like maybe we can save that to the morning. Or like the example I gave of buying a birthday present. That the party's not until the weekend, we can save that for Friday or even the morning of. So that's one way that you can categorize like a stoplight, red, yellow, green, good to go, or maybe we can pause and save that for a later time. I also have the concept of must do versus can do. It's very similar to red, yellow, green, but just a different way to phrase it. These are the must do things that I have to do on that day or that week. So homework, chores, or maybe it's family time. Family time can be a must do. But then here's some additional tasks on your to-do list that you can do. But once we're actually looking at our schedule or time, what can we reasonably fit into there? So, again, that's another way that students can relieve some of that burden of everything has to be is a must do. And then also helps them learn what I can plan for a different time and organize what has most priority. And then another way you can categorize your time or your routines with your kids is just having standards for what are weekday tasks for versus weekend tasks. This is something that I used growing up where spending time with my friends was only reserved for the weekend. So that allowed more time for me to switch things around and make sure I prioritized certain things during the weekday so that I could make more time for the weekend. Or that just helped me relieve and just get a lot more time during the weekday to do other things as well. So setting that structure of we only do this during the weekdays, but we do have free time to do that on the weekend can help, again, prioritize their time. And this is something that'll tie into one of Tristan's strategies later when it talks to like visual schedules and things like that. So keep that in mind to implement in a little bit. And then now for my segment, what's time got to do with it? Time has everything to do with it, okay? Be realistic about kids' ability to read time. I'm going to be honest, kids are terrible with telling the time. They have no concept of time. I see this a lot in my counseling sessions when we're working on something together and I say, okay, this is only going to take 5 minutes. Or I ask them, we're just going to do this worksheet. How long do you think that you need? And they're like, this is going to take 20 minutes. And it's really just going to take 5 minutes or vice versa. So, with that being said, when you're planning your day and what time we're going to do things, or do I have enough time to get this done? I want you to remember to always add a 15-minute buffer. So, whatever task, even if it seems so simple, I've been going through some kids' morning routines because they might be struggling to get to class on time. And brushing their teeth, I ask them, okay, how long do you think it takes to brush your teeth? And they'll tell me 10 minutes when we all know dentists recommend 2 or 3 minutes. So I'm like, okay, that's an area of growth right there that something's getting in the way and distracting them. And so we just gotta allow time for that because we can't have everything to the T or else we might be late to commitments and things like that. So my pro tip is add a 15-minute buffer and a way that you can get your child thinking about time a little bit better because it is something that we can develop and they can have a better sense of time. But we want to start the conversation of how long do you think this will take? And you can even make it into a game. Like, I think it's going to take 10 minutes. And they can say, well, I think it's going to take 5 minutes. And you can use your timer and actually time the tasks, whether it's homework or making their bed or helping set the table. And you will find more often than not that it's taking them actually a lot longer or maybe a lot shorter to complete tasks than they thought, or maybe you thought. So I kind of call this like a time inventory, but it's good to have a general idea of how long regular tasks will take you so that when they're planning their day and they have 3 chores to do, but soccer practice is in 20 minutes, I don't think they're going to have enough time for that. So let's save it for a different time. It's just another way to visualize everything and put it together. And lastly, especially for the younger ones, speak about time in a way that they might understand. So they might not know what 5 or 10 minutes is, but you can say, this is going to take as long as it takes to walk to school, or this is how long it takes to go to the Spectrum Mall. You love to go to the Spectrum. It's going to take as long as it takes to get to there. And speaking on it in a way that they will understand can help them visualize how much time they're actually going to need. So time, what does time got to do with it? Everything. Um, Before we move on, just a quick reminder, a pro tip. It's tricky. We're talking about how to be productive and organize our time. Um, but we also have to leave some time for our kids to learn, but also we have to schedule some breaks and just leave some wiggle room for them to learn. So I want to give you a pro tip that if we overschedule our kids, it could potentially lead to burnout. If we do it all for them and just say, okay, we're going to the next thing, and you feel like you're kind of dragging them here and there, there's going to be no skill development. I know that's why we're here. We want our kids to develop this for themselves so that they can grow that independence. If we expect them to have a perfect schedule and sense of time, and then they don't meet those expectations, it might cause our kids to shut down, which is what we don't want because we want this to be a learning opportunity and we want them to feel empowered, not shut down. And then again, like I said, if we skip breaks, it'll lead to burnout. Yes, we have a million things and we want to learn how to prioritize our time, but also make sure that you're including rest and coping skills and play together on that routine or that schedule. And that will lead to a productive and rested, well-rounded child.
And Miss Amelia, I see some comments in the chat, Miss Wynn, if you want to share them or talk about them briefly.
Yes, I think this is so relevant. Nicholas just shared the difficult part is having a healthy balance. I don't want my daughter thinking she's always running out of time and rushing will create anxiety. You're exactly right. That's what we don't want. And I think that when we don't have routine and structures, or if we don't know how to categorize things, that's ultimately what it leads up to. And I think also I've had some difficult conversations with kids and with families that it's great that you want to do all these things. And even after they've tried the routines or if they tried to categorize, that maybe we need to drop one or two activities, right, to make room for their rest or to get that skill going first. And then once they've gotten mastery of it, then we can add more onto their plate. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, it might be time to adjust by using some of these techniques or also maybe taking off some of the tasks that you might have going on throughout your day.
Yeah, and you can also build in rest time too. If you, a lot of us are just really busy. So building in that rest time is really important and making that very clear. Like, hey, you know what? We got an hour. Let's just chill out and do whatever it is that your family likes to do to rest.
Yes,
And then I
exactly.
see another one. Do you have any tips on kids who resist timers with a passion? I think sometimes too, like when kids are trying, like that sound can be triggering almost, especially if they're not meeting that mark over and over again. Um, One thing you can do is get creative. Instead of using an actual timer, you could do like songs, for example, be like, hey, let's listen to the fun song and clean up. And then by the time the song is done, hopefully all of our toys will be picked up and then we can move on to the next thing. Or, yeah, something that also measures time, but maybe isn't exactly a timer, if that makes sense.
Yes. I know there's sometimes like visuals, like it'll be a 5 minute timer, but it's not a timer. It's like a visual of like a kid racing to the end of the screen. So there's some different activities um, or different visuals that you could use. Because I know I do know that some kids are triggered by timers, but making it fun again, being like, I wonder how much, or let's see how much we can get done and try to make it into a game as much as possible. But if it's really not working, don't force it because again, we don't want too much of that tension.
Yeah, I think I've seen like little light up things you can buy on Amazon too, where it'll light up for 10 minutes or something and they can hit it and then it turns bright lights up and then once that turns off, then that's another like
You, yes.
transition cue. Yeah.
Yes. And then Angela, I appreciate you sharing that. It sounds like you're looking for some activities to do in the evening other than tech time. That's so important. I know that tech time is important too. Like, kids want to connect with their friends or play video games or things like that. So that would be a good time to to talk with your kid, I would say, or reach out to the community and see what activities there are to do. It can be organized sports. If you're spiritual anyway, in any way you can give back and join a church group or even find an organization to volunteer at. I know a lot of organizations love for students to volunteer and they love it too. It makes them feel so positive and wonderful. Um, but reach out to one of us. We would love to talk with you more about some of your child's interests and how we can get them involved in activities. Because that would be great. It's important to find that balance. We don't want to overschedule them where they're feeling burnt out, but we also don't want them to be underscheduled where they're maybe bored or understimulated. There's that good balance. And there's plenty of activities too that you can do at home. Maybe you search up a craft, they could help you with dinner and you do like a cooking lesson or something like that. There's also a way to schedule activities, but stay at home as well.
Yeah, that, and kind of just like building off what you said, something that we do in our offices too, like you said, connecting with us, we have something called a interest inventory, and it's almost like I guess you could call it like a quiz, but it's a series of different questions where we actually pull out the different things that children like, as well as how they like to receive praise, which is another big part of it. Really, maybe they do really well with verbal feedback and they really like when you say good job, or uh, they really like to receive items, things like that. So this exhaustive assessment sort of is really great, and we're happy to help you out with administering that to your kiddos, just as another way to kind of figure out what they like and what really gets them going.
Yes, and I'll say this last thought before we move on to the next strategy, but Nicholas, I appreciate you sharing because I talked about categorization and Nicholas was giving some tips about, he said, I found a great switch in switching all of her after school activities from Monday to Wednesday, and then she gets Thursday and Friday to enjoy her life. So I'm glad that that categorization helped you. And then he said he also categorized that no tech during the week. So that's like their week routine is anything but tech, but then their weekend routine, then they can have some tech. So that could potentially help you. I believe it was Angela in establishing a new routine with your kids and then finding ways to fill in those gaps. So thank you both for sharing those things. Okay, I think we will share these resources with you after the meeting, so you will have them. I appreciate all your questions, but I'll let Tristan take it over from here.
All righty, guys. So we are elementary. We are all about fun here. So our next strategy today is to make practicing these skills fun. And of course, with elementary level kids, play-based learning is a really powerful tool. So our first suggestion is an organization game. And I do this a lot, let me tell you, a lot in my counseling sessions with kids, especially my primary kiddos. You can find like these online for free, or you can even create them yourself. Um, so if you can kind of see in the little picture, this is the sample of some of the ones that I have. You practice organizing the deck of cards into different categories. So it could be by shape, by color, by animal, by number. So you can kind of see in the image, there's two alligators, there's two lions. Maybe they could input those together by number, or you can put the red cards together, or the one with single animals. There's lots of different ways that you can organize these types of cards. And it really just helps them to practice a skill, but also teaches that there are several different ways to organize things. And when I like automatically, I think about back in the 90s and when there was CDs and you would organize them on your shelving. Some people are like genre organizers and other people are alphabetical organizers. And really, there's like so many different ways that you can do it, and it's really up to your preference. So this is a great way to teach kids that there are different ways to do it. Next, we have vision boards, and I'm sure you've heard of these. These are like this is a really great option for our upper elementary kids, and it really helps to conceptualize future planning and thinking beyond sort of just the present. And something that we do a lot in our counseling sessions as well is SMART goal planning, which is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time. And I really start this as young as kindergarten. And of course, the approach you do is different based off of developmental level. But it's a really good skill that we like to instill in our students as often as we can, just to practice setting goals for themselves. And it also builds up resilience, which is fantastic. And it's really perfect for the new year. We simply would just take a board, a piece of paper, whatever medium that you would like that you have lying around, and use pictures as a way to visualize your goals. So it could be art, something that they draw. It could be printed from a computer. Cutting from magazines is really fun. Whatever you have available at your home, and honestly, it can be really inexpensive to free, just depending on what you have. And also, it's just a fun bonus art project that you can do over a weekend. Next, we've got the 2 minute blitz or an hourglass race. They're really similar. Basically, this just helps kids to support time management as well as improving their ability to organize things. So, using a small hourglass or set a 2 minute timer, a song, some of the different options that we kind of went over based off of your kid. Um, and then setting that for 2 minutes or whatever time length that you want to do, usually something kind of short. Visuals in general are just really helpful for children to see exactly what's happening. The timer helps to create that natural urgency as well too, which is something that we kind of need to develop on, especially tasks that are important that need to get done at a certain time. So it could be to help clean up the dinner table, or pack your lunch for tomorrow, or put away 10 toys that are laying out, whatever it is that needs to get done in your house, and just to make it fun. And then the last one we have is kind of a fun one. It's called a time budget challenge. So this is fun because it not only teaches time management, but it also gives an introduction to budgeting. And I know a lot of the kids are starting to maybe receive a small allowance, or now that they've had a couple birthdays, they've collected up some money in their savings. And it's really a great way to tie in these two skills together. Provide your kid with 24 coins, marbles, or any token that you have. And each token represents 1 hour of the day. And you're going to have your kid budget out their day into different categories based off of what your life looks like, right? So that could be sleep, homework, free play time, meals, after school activities, getting ready in the morning, whatever it is that that looks like, they can create that out on like a sheet of paper, or maybe you have jars, whatever you want to do. And then they put each token in. And at the end of the night, you're going to compare it and see, okay, this is what actually happened in our day. And then this is what, like, maybe we guessed, and maybe it's spot on, maybe it's not. But that's kind of where you can spark that conversation. And then if they get really good at it and you want to go for like the super mega challenge, you can do 160 tokens for a week. But of course, that's definitely as they get older. But for our next slide right over here, it's really important for any of these play-based skills in general that we've been talking about over time to narrate as you go. And yes, like learning play or play-based learning is really fun, but it is important to narrate it for the kids to actually absorb and understand why it is we're doing that we're doing. And yes, you're playing, but it's not just that. So for example, like the organization game, why did you group those together? How did you organize them? What was your thought process when you wanted to put all the red cards together and the yellow cards together? And then for the vision board, what is your plan for this year? What do you want to accomplish? And have them reflect upon their goals. 2 minute blitz, what made you move faster and more efficiently? What do you think that was? Like, why? What was that urgent feeling you had? Or what strategy did you use to get that all done so quick? And then like the budget one, did your budget match your day? What would you change? And that kind of just depends based off of the answer that they give you for the first one. Maybe it was spot on, and you're like, that's awesome. What was successful? Or it was totally off. And you're like, what do we need to change to get this to match, right? So that is the narration part. Let's go ahead and move on to strategy number 5. This is implementing a chore incentive chart in your home. And again, this is a win-win strategy for the kids, but also for you as parents, because there is so much to do in a day. And so having your kids as they grow up help is so important. And this skill really helps build up the responsibility and the time management piece as well. Of course, this is going to be based off of your child's age and their capabilities. A big pro tip for this plan is to do it with and in tandem with your child. This helps to create that buy-in for them, and they'll be more likely to participate as opposed to dragging their heels and being like, oh, I have to do the dishes again. No, but then if they're creating this plan with you, they're going to have a lot more buy-in and hopefully want to do these chores more. The key features to this are having a chores list, obviously, the decided upon chores between you guys, a checkoff section by the day, and then a goal of how much needs to get done, and then their total earned. And then there's a reward piece to it as well, which we'll talk about in a second. If you can just go ahead and head on to the next one, I'll show you. We've got some samples here. As you can kind of see on the one on the very left, this one's fantastic for littles because it's got the pictures, and then you can see each day is happening and then their total. Um, and then some of the one in the middle is definitely more for like an older kiddo. And then they have bright colors, which is really fun. Just doing this based off of either what you have lying around, or you can purchase some online. They've got some really cool ones. There's whiteboard features, or if you want, you can do like a sticker if you're printing them out. But kind of a little bit back to the incentive piece, it is got to be something that is desirable for your kid, or else they're not going to want to participate in this. But it doesn't always have to be money. And I know a lot of times kids are starting to do their allowances at this age, and that's fantastic if that's what you guys have going on and are able to at your house. But sometimes that's not always an option. So we like to get creative, and you can do fun stuff. Like if we're able to reach our goal for the week, you get to pick movie night and we're going to spend it together as a family on Friday. Or maybe it's you get to cook a special dinner with me. And then the total is going to depend on, again, what is going on in your household and your specific needs. So let's say that chores are something that happens Monday through Friday for you, certain ones, right? Maybe there's two chores that you need to get done every single weekday. At the end of that week, it would be 10 total points. So then you can say if you did nine out of the 10, that you could reach your reward that we had agreed upon before we implemented this, right? And of course, you just monitor as you go. Maybe that reward is no longer enticing. That's okay. We switch it up, right? So this is something that we continually are revising, revisiting, and then seeing as we go. And then on my next little slide right here, it's super quick. I just have some appropriate chores by age group, which I'm sure is a big question that you may have. Um, and then this one's kind of like a flow down chart. We're mostly looking at the orange, yellow, and red for our elementary level kids. I'll just give you kind of a minute just to read through it. Um, but it's going to be stuff like collecting trash, folding clothes, wiping down counters, prepping for the next school day, which is really important, especially with your morning routines. It makes your life so much easier, kind of like what Amelia was speaking about. But just use this kind of as a quick guideline on what is needed inside your own home. All right, can we go ahead and switch to the next slide, please? Okay. All right, our strategy number 6. So this one's kind of the more obvious skill for planning that's really important, and that's checklists and planners. You can start building this habit at an early age. So checklists are really great for little ones as it's easy to understand, and it can be really fun to actually physically check off. Start off by practicing making lists for things such as homework, chores, school materials, or things that you need for the next day, daily tasks, schedules, all that good stuff, depending on what you need. The next level up would be to utilize a planner for older fourth and fifth grade students. I know that our fifth grade students do practice using these, which is the perfect transition, especially as the homework really starts to up while they get to the upper grades. And then once your students enter middle school, that's really when the game changes. Plus, they're starting to manage more activities after school. So building up these habits and then having them categorize those different things in one concise place is really important. And plus, it just makes things more manageable as the load grows. And another like small side note, you can have a family calendar planner up and a wall or a fridge that's accessible for everyone to see. That way they know maybe there's something happening this weekend that they got to keep in their mind. Oh, we have a family get together for all of Saturday, therefore they know that they don't really have Saturday free, and just thinking ahead. All right, and this is a fun one, obviously. Sticky note reminders are really great. And I think this is like the hack of all hacks. It's really great for writing down in the moment thoughts or things that need to be done or things that need to be remembered. And lots of students have access to them at school. And if they don't, please tell them to come find one of us. We can always make sure that they have a pad with them in their little pencil boxes. But it's just a really great visual reminder. I don't want you to see my desk because it's full of sticky notes, but they're super easy to access and really important, and kids love them because they're colorful and fun, and they've got some really cool ones out there. And like we said before, kids need that visual input, and I really want to stress that having a visual is so helpful for this age group to help them be successful. All right, takeaway alert. I know we love to do these here, but for all the parents and caregivers who are in attendance today, you will receive a to-do list board, which is really cool. So as you can kind of see on here, on the left column, you can pre-label it to whatever you want or whatever fits with your family. And then right next to it is a little slider. So it'll be an X if it's not done. And once it's done, they can physically move it over, and that little burst of like happy feelings is super awesome, and it gets kids wanting to come back and more excited to switch that over. So don't there's nothing that I think Miss Yvonne put in the chat that make sure your name is visible on your little screen so that we know who to send it to. And you don't have to, besides making sure your name is visible, do anything. We're just keeping track of who's on this little Zoom right now, our team, and then we will send it to you in your child's backpack. So keep an eye out. But we're super excited for that. And if you're unable to change your name or figure that out and it's a lot, and maybe you're on your phone, you can always email us as well. Our emails will be posted at the end, or type it in the chat, and we can make sure that that gets to you. All right. And then this is one last little piece that it's like a resource I wanted to share with you. So I actually created this worksheet, and it's called the Brain Blast Plan, and I utilize this in my counseling sessions with kids. It's kind of like a one-stop shop for a lot of the different strategies that we discussed today, and it's scaled into a one-day checklist, this one that I have right here. So it just you can also, if you like this concept, scale it to a week. But this is just a great way to practice prioritizing and planning. And you can do one a day or you can just test it out just to get kids thinking about the process. So I'll give you kind of an example. So first you'll see today I need to, the task could be fold my clothes, do my homework, and I need to walk the dog. Okay, so then the next part, what order makes the most sense? Well, folding my clothes, I can really do that anytime before I go to bed, so maybe that's third. Um, I do need to walk the dog before it gets dark, and I need to get my homework done as soon as possible. So maybe I take a break, I walk the dog, get some fresh air, then I'm going to be ready to start my homework, and then I can fold the laundry. How long will each task take? And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It depends on your kids' conceptual concept of time. So this is a practicing thing. Maybe walking your dog takes 30 minutes and homework takes 30 minutes and folding the clothes maybe takes 15. Just keeping that in mind, how long all of this is going to take. And then the last part, which is really important too, in beyond just planning, how may what may distract me in this, and how can I stay focused to get this all done on time, right? A big one, homework is obviously can be very distracting, especially if it's not the most desired task to do. But have kids thinking, okay, well, when I do my homework, I'm often really distracted by the TV and I want to watch it, but I also want to do my homework. So maybe the solution and strategy I can use is to pick up my stuff and go do my homework in the kitchen, and then when I'm done, maybe I can head back to the living room. So just having them be reflective on that process and then setting themselves up for success to get this all finished, right? Oh, and sorry, you don't have to change the back, but just for this, if you guys would like a copy, I'm totally happy to send it to you. Please just shoot me an email, or you can also write in the chat, and I'd be happy to share a copy of this with you that you can practice in your home as well.
Okay, cool. And I feel like I know that these are each different sections of executive functioning, but I feel like they all go together. So I know that we're talking about planning and organization, but there might be some questions on like, what if my kiddo just doesn't want to, or they have a hard time regulating their emotions and they get so overwhelmed by everything. I feel like all of this comes together. And so I really would encourage you to look at our YouTube page. If you missed any of the other ones, we did one on self-regulation and we did another one on focus and memory. I thought about that too, because Tristan just said, like, well, I get distracted if I'm working by the TV because the TV's on, so I'm going to go to the kitchen. And we talked about that in our focus and memory one too, about having a focus station. So all of these are tied together. I would encourage you to look through them because it'll help one skill translates to the other one, and I think we'll create a better system for you. But we have some time today. If anyone has, I've been loving the chat. The chat has been going off today. I love hearing from you guys. So thank you so much.
Writing down
If
the
you
names right
have
now.
Yes. We are, we're just one part of the support team, but you as parents are on the boots ground every day with your kid. And I know that you probably have some innovative strategies. So if anyone would like to share any strategies that you have found that have been successful for your family, I would love to hear from you. I think Nicholas unmuted. Were you going to share, Nicholas?
Yeah, I mean, I've got so much to say right now. Just because it's difficult finding that balance. And like I said, she was going to Muay Thai and Jiu Jitsu, I think 3 to 4 times a week. Then I switched it to two and gave her Thursday and Friday open. But the same thing with chores and lists that like we bought a couple things from Amazon and they didn't really work. Like we had the chore list and we marked it off for a bit, but then it kind of fell to the wayside. And I'm just like really trying to figure out after school, she's exhausted. She doesn't want to talk. She doesn't want to do anything. Um, and just finding that balance. And I feel like there is a real strong line there where you're kind of towing the line all the time of like not giving her too much, but setting her up for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I think some that is worth discussing, especially during topics like this. And in a world that values productivity, which of course there are times when you need to be productive. It helps get things done. But that's also part of social emotional learning is knowing when we need a break, when we need rest, and also not over planning so that we're sacrificing on eating healthy, getting enough movement, and sleeping enough. So
Yeah.
every family is different. We just have to be mindful of our kids' cues. And we tell
Yeah.
kids too when to advocate for themselves. And that's often in counseling, they'll say, I have too much going on. I'm feeling overwhelmed. So, okay, how are you resting? And sometimes the coping skills that they're using aren't helping. So that's where we help. But then there's also the advocacy part of, okay, let's have a conversation with your parents that maybe this is too much for you right now and we need to take a few things off of your schedule. So there's a few different solutions there that might be going on. But yeah,
Yeah,
you can't
and
have one without the other.
right. And one thing that I was gonna say, like something that worked for me is, I would ask her to make her bed every morning, but then I found that when I ask her to make her bed, we have less time to prepare for school, and then we're rushing out the door, and it turns into a fight. So just as a parent, I was like, just as your dad, this is my courtesy I'm going to offer to you. I'm making your bed for you every morning without question. Like, I'm going to make your bed. It's just something that I want to offer. And it freed up a lot. It was like a bigger deal than I thought it would be, but it also felt good to help her organize as well.
I'm sure
I
that helps
love
her too
that.
feel supported.
Yes,
Like, hey, my
that's,
dad's got my back. Yeah.
you go ahead, Tristan.
Oh no, that was basically, I just think that that's really nice. And that's something you can also build back into her schedule later on, but maybe that's just kind of her way of saying this is too much
Yeah.
and I need your help.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. And just knowing I run a parenting class and Tristan's going to join me. It's called the Parent Project. It talks about different strategies if we're facing behaviors with our kid, but it's reminding me of this topic of like when we're setting rules with our kids or expectations, we can't just set so many expectations because they're going to feel overwhelmed. Let's set like three hard rules and then the rest can be negotiable. And so that comes around
Mhm.
with it just reminded me of that, like how much of a deal is this a really, really big deal that she makes her bed, or is there wiggle room? And you found that that wiggle room was so helpful. And so if I think more parents can take that note and see the benefits of it, and I appreciate you sharing. That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Let's see, I'm just checking the chat right now. Someone just said, Stephanie, thank you for sharing. She started using a skylight and it has a to-do list feature. I'm guessing Skylight is an application as a to-do list feature that has been super helpful with our morning routine. She checks it off every day. Yes. Something I know to-do list can sometimes be daunting for kids. I like to say it already done list or like got it done list, and that can be motivating for kids to check off too. Like, look at all the things that I did throughout my day.
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay.
Oh,
I will stick around for like another minute or two. But if you have any other questions or comments, or you feel like this is more of a one-on-one conversation, you're welcome to send your questions to us and we will get in touch with you with our answers. And we'll go ahead and share our contact information on the screen next, but I'll also write it down in the chat just in case.
yes. And actually, Stephanie, I looked up that skylight thing. It looks so cool. It's basically like a digital calendar. Um,
Ooh.
and
Yeah,
I was gonna get one for my own house. So now that you're hyping it up, I think I might just do it and buy it. It's really
really
cool.
cool. It's like if you've heard of like the Amazon Echo Show or something like that, it's similar. So it basically like it will act as like your family calendar, so you can import your Google Calendar into it. You can do meal planning and recipes and all of that kind of stuff. And I haven't maximized the entirety of it yet because we're still getting used to it. But even just having it, like we have it on the counter and it looks like a picture frame, and when it's like in sleep mode, it'll have pictures of our family and stuff. So it like doesn't look ugly. And then you can wake it up by touching it, and then Mia will go to her little task list that she has, and we have things for her in the morning, like get dressed, brush her hair, feed the dog, get your backpack and your snacks ready and all that kind of stuff. And for literally everything she has to do, there's a little checkbox, and so she can check it off, and it gives her like points. And
Oh,
so
even
for
better.
everything she does, she gets a point, and then we say like, oh, if you get to X amount of points, you get to like pick a special treat or get to do something special. So it's like external motivation for her.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
love that.
Sold. I'm gonna get one myself.
Yes. She's secretly on the marketing team.
I'm already at it.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's been so fun chatting with everybody. This has been such a beneficial session.
Mhm.
So thank you for joining us today. Our next session is going to be Tuesday, February 10th, and this is our last session in our series, and we're going to be talking about multi-step directions and cognitive flexibility. So I know that can be a tough one. How do I get my kid to be flexible with either my directions or their way of thinking or just with the plan. I know some kids don't like change and they have their mindset on something, so we'll give you some strategies for that. But if nothing else, thank you everybody for joining us and have a great rest of your day.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you,
Take
guys.
care.